a soulmate of mine. She is a business strategist for creative entrepreneurs. And she does this in a very unique way. She uses something called frequency. She discusses the frequencies, the elements that are, it's like Chinese astrology. So I'll ask her to expand a little bit on that. But she uses this in terms of connecting with yourself and harnessing that frequency, understanding it. And essentially, to me, I loved it because it was really a way of getting to know myself in a more deep and even expansive way, and how to infuse that into everything I do, not just my work, but like my life, my love, all the things. So she does this, and she also has this really great, it's not even a side gig, is it, Ellen? It's like Root and Sky, the Root and Sky shop. Yeah. She's really this multifaceted human being that I just think is fascinating. I think you're fascinating, Ellen. The way you embody and embrace all aspects of self and how you've moved that through various parts of your work and your life and your relationships. So Root and Sky is this creation of Ellen's about gem essences, where there's infused elixirs with like the magic of crystals and minerals and all sorts of things that help support you from the inside out and really manifest some cool mojo.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
That's totally fair. That's great. I'm going to put that on my website. Help you manifest some cool mojo.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. And whoever's here, say hi. Ernie. Okay. Let's just show some hellos here, because I know, Ellen, you can't see them unless you've got your Facebook up in a separate thing. So Ernie says hello.
Hi, Ernie.
Hi, Ernie. She's lovely. And anyone else say hi? Let me know where you're. Oh, Mary's here. Hi, Mary. Mary again.
Hi, Mary.
Mary is on many of my shows, and she anchors some seriously amazing mojo. So does Ernie. So thank you guys for being here. And anyone else say hello. And today we're going to be talking about, well, some frequency stuff that, Ellen, actually, could you describe that a little bit more? I don't think I did a great job of it.
Well, it's a complicated thing. And I have taken it upon myself to steward this into the world in a very user-friendly. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit of feedback, and I'm realizing I should put in headphones, but I don't have any here, so I'm just going to keep going.
Okay, let me know, everybody, let me know if there is feedback, because I can't hear it. So,
okay, great. Hopefully it's just for me.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to turn down my speakers a little bit. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I've taken it upon myself to steward frequency into the world in a very user-friendly and accessible way. And I was really struck by lightning reading the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, which if anyone has not read that book, you should get on with it. Just give in. Okay, great, Ernie. Thank you. I'm going to just endure this.
If you need to get your headphones, you know what? We could do that.
Honestly, I don't really know where they are right now. I tried to find them before this call and I couldn't. I think they're in the car. So I'm just going to this is real life. This is blessing the mess. This is just I
love it.
With it. Yeah.
Okay.
So she talks about in that book how ideas are looking for willing partners. And, an idea will bug you. And if you are not the right willing partner for it, eventually it will find one who is. And I just feel like that's me in frequency. I feel like frequency is a concept and an idea that has been around, for centuries. Really, it's derived from the oldest astrological system still in use, which is 9-star key, which is what acupuncture is based on. So if you've ever been to an acupuncturist and they're like, your water's out of whack, and you're like, what do you mean? I drink 8 cups a day. How is that possible? It's like there's a chi system that correlates to water. It's a Chinese element system that they're using there. And it's complicated, right? We've all been to acupuncturists and Chinese herbalists, and there's a lot of layers and there's a lot of nuance to these systems. And something in my brain tells me that I can make this accessible to the masses, that I am the willing partner for this idea. And so frequency was born of that. So frequency is a personality assessment system that is derived from 9-star key, which is the astrological system. So they are similar but different. Frequency is my own work. And my own interpretation of the system in a way that is really designed to be very user-friendly, very easy to engage with. And the big thing that makes it really unique and different from a lot of other personality tests out there, because there's a million billion, is it speaks to the 3 different parts of your core personality. Your overall you-ness, how you show up in the world, right? Your general sense of self, your romantic life, which is different than has to be sometimes presented.
Did we lose her? Lose her, not loser. I'm just going to give it a second and see if she pops back on. Because that was just getting good. We lost you, love. Come back.
Oh, no. Hello?
Oh, you're back.
I never went anywhere. I felt like I was always here.
Oh, I don't know. That's never happened.
You were looking at me so sweetly. I was like, oh, this is going so great.
I just eat all the things you say. So
where did I leave off?
That's when it was getting good.
Yeah,
it was talking about the personality, how I was bringing in all the elements. It was long ago.
Oh, no.
Into like the meat of it.
Yeah. So, okay. I couldn't quite hear you. You turned into a video.
Oh, you were just getting into the meat of like all the elements and how they work with like your personality and things like that. You were saying the overall, the overall, then the second one, and then like the third one.
Okay, yeah. So there are three. So frequency has three facets. There's your overall you-ness. Mm-hmm. There's your romantic life, because we show up a little differently in romance as the rest of the world, and it's often tied to how we were as a kid. And your professional skill sets, which are things that you're really, really good at in your job professionally, but maybe not quite as good at in the rest of your life, right? You might struggle with that skill set elsewhere. And so to me, when I was introduced to this work, I immediately both understood myself so much clearer and so much deeper. And it immediately gave me the sense of like, oh, that's why. That's why. Cool. And as soon as I like had that deep sense of relief, it's like I found that ease and everything sort of fell into place and started moving forward in a much more, I stopped working against myself because I finally understood myself in a deeper and better way. And so I'm a business strategist primarily, and I do all these other things in conjunction with that. But I understood very instantly how this can be applied to my business clients who really struggle with, why am I so good at these things for my job at work? I'm not that great at them in the rest of my life. And that makes me feel bad about myself, or I have these sort of warring voices in my head, a voice that says go fast and a voice that says go slow. And I don't know who to listen to or when. They feel very caught and very stuck within them.
Yeah.
So I use frequency as a lens to untangle those pieces of themselves and to sort of give voice and vocabulary to each side of ourselves so that we can just find that ease and be like, oh, this is more my work self. This is what I'm really good at work. And look, this is me struggling with this in my personal life. Cool. I don't need to beat myself up about it. I just need to notice it and try incrementally to get better. Right. And then it's like, oh, if this voice is showing up, but it's my foundational frequency, but it's a personal life question, like it's in my relationship. I'm like, oh no, maybe my relationship frequency can take a stronger voice here, and so it just invites sort of separating out a little bit, understanding different parts of yourself, and then moving forward, right? In ways that feel really good to you and making better decisions and better communication. So that's where it comes from. That's my concepts with this and my agreement to partner with this idea to help make it more accessible for people. Because every single person I meet that I talk to about this, or talks to a practitioner about it, they love it, they're fascinated, and there's just no good resources for it. It's sort of like you have to have a bit of a degree in Chinese astrology to really understand it. And I just don't think it should be like that. I think it can be a lot more accessible in English. And so that's what I'm doing. And that's how I use it with my business clients. So we start there. The thesis with all of this is the more you are connected to yourself, the more you understand yourself, the more you get what makes you awesome and what you struggle with, the stronger your business foundations will be. So I actually don't even get to like the strategy. Not quotates. I should not have done that.
I love it.
No, it's strategy, but I don't start that until we've done all of this personal connection to self work, because that gives us the foundation to build on.
Yeah. I just love, you're so good at articulating it. And I'm sure that's come with a lot of practice. Right.
Yeah.
It is a lot. And it is like, you're the one that went and read the books. You're the one that did the work. You're the one that filtered it down into digestible nuggets and organized it. And Alice, that maybe I can actually share that link here if people are curious about it, because whether you have an idea or you're already in, sort of creating a business or whatever it is, it's still fascinating It's incredibly fast. So I think I just shared that. Hopefully that goes out to you guys in a comment. Okay, cool. It's not showing up. That's funny. It doesn't show up here. But anyway, but I can show it up here. Let's do this just for fun. There you go. Oh, it did show up. Cool. And because it really does. And so your quiz does the thing that I do as well, but I don't have a quiz for it, which is, well, it's something that I think is really important. So today I went for a walk, and I think, this is my world. So I go out for a walk, which I haven't done for a long time. I know I'm I've been told for a long, long time that I'm really connected to the elements, to the natural world, and that if I ever feel sort of out of sync, I really need to go and walk by the ocean or walk in the mountains or the forest or something to help balance and create a deeper sense of harmony in myself. So today, because I was like, you know what? It's so nice outside. I'm going to go out and walk by the water. And I go and I open up to all the things that cross my path, and I pay attention. And the entire time I was walking, crows were like constantly crossing my path. One landed beside me, and I tend to use these animal medicine cards and it's perfect for me because, of course, each thing has a symbol. And I came home and I was like, well, that happened a lot. Maybe I'll look it up. Or no, that isn't what I did. Guess what I did? I came home and shuffled my cards. So these are like the animal cards. And I'm like, all right, so I'm just sitting here. I wonder what Ellen and I are going to talk about, and like just sort of setting an attention and curious and staying open and just playing, because I just play with this.
A crow.
Crow freaking flew out and landed, and I face down, and I was like, and I turned it over, and I was like, all right. I actually hadn't told when I was a sit. And then when I saw that, I said, that's so funny. And guess what it's all about? It's all about understanding yourself. It's understanding. So the beginning parable talks about how the crow was fascinated by its shadow, and it was pecking at its shadow until the shadow woke up and then ate it. Which is so funny because what I take away from what you're saying and how I hold this is that if we don't slow down. Yeah. And so in the write-up, it was really clear. It was like, listen, this isn't about judgment. This isn't about taking you down and blaming you for these aspects of self. This is about softening your gaze and broadening your perspective to allow your whole self to be seen. Yeah. Without like pecking at it, without being like, I am that one thing or I am that one thing and this one's going to take me out. Yeah. And it was basically saying until we can allow for all parts to again, I know you're back. And to ask ourselves better questions like, what's behind that behavior? Like, if that behavior had a saying, what would it be saying? You know, and absolutely. So it's a little bit, longer road, I guess, but it's also a nurturing way to bring forth those aspects, to see them and not be afraid of them and not try to outrun them. Totally. So so today it's kind of funny that I sort of, and you talked about what happened, something that happened for you in tech. Oh man, technology does not want us to play today.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm just sitting here so stilly, willing the internet to keep working.
Oh, we're just going to keep going because that's what we got to do.
Yeah. Well, I'm not afraid of that. One piece of that I think we should use as a bit of an anchor today is this idea of not trying to outrun yourself. Yeah. I love that.
That's so good. Talk to me about that. Tell me about that and what happened. So here's what I want to know. Sorry, we are seeing everything live here, folks. I don't know, flew out or into my mouth. I want to know, this is a few questions, so I want you to sort of choose however you want to play with it. But I'm curious to hear about what happened for you in Texas. So we were both speaking at an event. It was called Practical Magic Live, and it was hosted by McKenna Johnston, who's now renaming it and launching another version of it in Vancouver this October. And I can post a link for that. But we were both going to speak, and we both had very different experiences going up to speak, but I think there was something similar about what happened for us. So I want you to help explain, maybe it's what happened for you, or even like, I'm even curious about the up until now, like the up until that time. Okay. You know what I mean? To like, because otherwise, so that was a pivot for you.
Yeah.
So I think I think that might be really helpful. So feel free to just tap dance on that one.
Okay. I love this in the concept of not outrunning yourself, because that I feel like is what I stopped doing in that moment. Hello?
I promise I'm here. I swear to God, I'm here.
I was just trying to look on Facebook to see what's happening because I can't. I was just, oh no.
Okay, so you just started. I'm sorry, everybody.
I'm so sorry. Normally it's not this bumpy. My computer works really well. I don't know what the deal is today. Okay, so in Texas, McKenna invited me to come speak about my frequency work, because the theory, the place that I hold with my frequency work is by understanding yourself, you are better to make the impact that you want to make in the world, right? It helps you understand your superpowers and also your Achilles heels, what you kind of struggle with and how you can find harmony and balance within that. So I'm getting up to talk. Oop, am I frozen again?
Nope.
Okay, great. So I'm going to talk and give my speech. I've got my worksheets all planned out. I've got everything ready to go. And I realize, and I was also the last speaker of the event. So I had been listening to everybody else talk. I'd been in the room. I'd been connecting with all the participants there, who are just a fantastically beautiful group of ladies. So wonderful and so connected. And I thought to myself, holy moly, if I do not share my own journey to how I got here, I will have like no buy-in. People won't believe me. And I need to share with a lot more vulnerability and honesty than I was planning to, my journey towards being a leader in this way, my journey towards understanding myself in this way, and then what frequency unlocked within me, and then how I wanted to help support everybody else around me. Which is a big shift, because up until that moment, I had been leading with the work, right? The work is this, the system is this is how you do it. This is what it gives you. You do this thing. It's sort of outside of me. It's, I'm the steward. It's not, just really leading with it. And there's a vulnerability there, right? We lead with our work because it's harder to criticize work, or easier maybe to receive criticism for work than ourselves, right? There's layers to that. There's layers. But this idea of not trying to outrun yourself anymore just became very clear to me, that I needed to stop and I needed to share. And I needed to share my own journey of how I became this very embodied, very integrated woman standing before this crowd of glorious beings on the stage. Because what not that many people in the sort of public arena realm of my life realize about me is that I did not show up this way. Right? I was not born like this. I was not, even up until 2 years ago, living this integrated life where I can talk about my frequency work and my magic potions and practices and mojo, but also the science behind it and also the business strategy, right? Like, I wasn't there, and I wasn't anywhere close to that. And it's because I had a lot of questions about if that was even possible in that integration piece. So, but people don't see that when they see me these days. They don't see a woman who has journeyed. They just see a woman who is, and a woman who sort of radiates, and therefore it's easy, as we all do, right? It's easy to make a lot of assumptions about somebody based on where they are today in this moment in their life, especially one who's presenting more publicly and putting their stuff out there to be seen and to be judged in some ways. So I really, I rewrote my entire talk in my mind very shortly before going on stage, really realizing that I had to dedicate the first half of my speech to talking about my own journey and my own process so that people really understood everything I'm about to share and everything I am today, for the most part, is like learned, yes. Okay. Sense of integrity, sense of working hard for things. Those are ingrained. That's like, I grew up in a household that supported those things, but, embodiment, radiance, passion, confidence, those are all learned skills, and they're entirely attainable, because I think there tends to be this sense of like, oh, well, you're like that, whatever, confident, embodied, powerful, whatever. So I could never, because I'm not like that. And we use these as a way to kind of both other ourselves and deny our dreams, right? Because it's like, it's almost too painful to want. So we look for these other excuses or ways to sort of say, well, that's not for me. And I see that, this comes up a lot with me in my work. There's a reason that I led with this, right? Is because I wanted people to not have that opportunity. So I stopped running from myself. And I also I was like, Ellen, your story is a part of this. Your journey is a part of this, like it's not just about the work. It's about you as woman, as steward, as business person, as everything. It's about you as well. So I stopped running from myself and I shared. And what I shared was, I was a very awkward tuba player in high school. And I was so shy. I didn't talk, which is a minor miracle now that I am this verbose and, this like public with a lot of the things. But it's true. Like, as a young woman, I didn't really talk until I had some profound leadership opportunities that I had to kind of get over that and start sharing my opinions more. I didn't feel that comfortable in my body. I felt very insecure, and I've done a lot of work, fun work, not like hard work, but like dancing kind of work to reconnect with myself and create opportunities for healing and embodiment. And then also bringing more of my magical practice into my regular life, talking about it more, creating gem essences, which are very unique and different and not super widely known, like essential oils are these days, and not being afraid of that. And that all of those are learned things, and they're brave, and it's important, I think, to let people in on the journey, which is, Keri-Anne, what you're so passionate about, right? It's like, bless the mess, be in it. Because I think it's really easy to want to get up on stage and be like, I'm great, and this is the thing, right? And it's like, well, yeah, okay, I'm really great. Yeah, I'm really great today, and I have been great along the way, right? I'm not trying to pretend that I've overcome, I've had challenges in my life. We all have, but it's like, you have to bring yourself into the narrative. You have to talk about your own journey. And for me, I think it's really important that people realize, like, I did not wake up like this. Like, this is not, this level of confidence and embodiment and multifacetedness is hard won, and that's something anybody can work hard for, right? It just depends on what you're working for.
And I think that's really helpful. So anyone watching right now, if you've got questions about where you're at, and you're hearing this, because I hear a lot of, how starting questions, how, just how, I get that a lot, because I think thank you for saying all that, because so think of your questions and start putting them in, like, what do you want to know the how around? Because I think I do get a lot of feedback about, how, somebody actually asked me recently, it was a family member. She was like, how do you say all the things you do without fear of, like, I don't know. It was almost like fear of your family. It felt very much like around family obligation. Like, you share a lot, and are, kind of like that pressure about like family secrets and loyalty. And very Irish. It was like,
no one says that to me, but it's something I carry with me, right? I'm aware, and it's funny. I just did an interview, unrelated to business stuff. It was a personal life interview, so it was very personal. And she asked me some really good questions that I was just not prepared for, because most of my interviews are about business stuff, right? Which is like a different level of relation to the work and the vulnerability. And afterwards I was like, we can't use parts of that because I haven't started talking with my own family about how I want to tell these stories and how I want to share these things. And I do want to share those stories at some point, but I am not ready to do that publicly now. And I think to answer your question with my own experience, because that has been my, and I have a lot of I've realized three things. One, all of my fears about sharing what I do and all the multifacetedness of it, and feeling that fear of judgment, fear of no one's going to take me seriously. It's like, oh my gosh, you make magical stuff and you're a business strategist. How can that both be true? It's like, well, it is. So that's how it's true.
Taking out everybody. That's how you do it.
It is. It just is, right? Yeah. But my fears kept that really, because I was projecting, right? That I was taking the voice in my head, I was projecting it. And who do we project on? Mostly our family, because they're the closest to us. We know their voices, we know their stuff. It's easiest to blend our fears and their maybe reality, because that's just the lives we lead, right? So, so there's that point, as I realized my fears were worse than I imagined. Also, it's not personal, right? What I choose to do professionally is not personal to my family, even though sometimes it might feel like that in the beginning. It's actually not. And, you know, for me, I'll just share my experience that it was when I launched my Gem Essences line is when my family really started paying attention to what I was doing and getting super interested in it. And I've been in business for myself for 7 years. Like, I have a presence on the internet. Like, I'm friends with a fair amount of my aunts and cousins in social media. And it was the Gem Essences that really sparked their imagination. And that's the thing, of course, I felt the most like around, right? Like, it's not that hard to step out as a business strategist. That's a known thing. It's not, and I was a life coach before that. And that's, but still known. The Gem Essences, I was like, oh, they're not gonna know. And And it was like beautifully affirming, you know, that my family sees me, I think, a little bit more than I give them credit for, obviously. And that it's not always how we expect, you know, and that we can, our family can surprise us, you know.
That is exactly what I'm really glad you're sharing.
Yeah. And I have a similar family dynamic to, I think, everyone else. Like, we love each other very much. We don't talk that deeply about our stuff, but we hang out and we spend fun time together, and like, we enjoy each other. But, you know, but I don't know what half of my cousins do for a living, right? Because it's like, that's not what we talk about. We don't talk about our jobs. We talk about like our lives and where we're going traveling, and our nieces and nephews and like all this stuff. So, and, you know, and there's a lot of Irish Catholic history in my family too, which has a lot of value around working really hard and, you know, providing for yourself and providing for your family. And certainly when I was going into business for myself as a solopreneur, that felt really vulnerable for me to sort of break with our, you know, quote unquote family tradition of just like working really hard for companies, basically. And again, I was surprised. I mean, years later, not in the middle of it, but afterwards, I had several of my aunts sit down and sort of say how impressed they were by me and how inspired that I was taking the Sleep Now, while it felt, you know, not quite me, because they were older, obviously, by a chunk from me. And then actually that very same aunt who sat me down and told me how impressed she was, about a year ago, started her own consulting firm, like left her corporate job and started doing it on her own. And it's cool to see that, you know. So I just think we can be surprised. And I think that is something that I wish we had more space for in our lives. And I think this is something your work points to, the bless the mess piece. But it's like, let your family surprise you and let yourself be surprised by your family. Because there's such this infrastructure that tries to keep things the same, you know, right? Yes. And family, when it connects all of those pieces. But it's like, what if we had more space for our family to evolve and grow and change and surprise us as much as we have for our friends? Like, that would be really cool. And they do, yeah. And I'm living proof that is a possibility, right? That my family can surprise me, I can surprise my family, and you can hold these really disparate professions in the same person. And it's a learned skill. Like, it's taken me years to become this comfortable with it.
Yes. Well, and I think there are certain things that have happened, I'm guessing, along the way that you wouldn't necessarily have chosen, but you had to move through it, and you had to move through it quite quickly, only to see on the other side that you not only did you survive it, but there's no way in hell you could ever carry that old barrier between you and the world in quite the same. You've had that experience. And that's, I want to share that with people, because sometimes it's not like seeking something or like doing anything. Sometimes life is like, you know what? She's really hanging on to this pattern about what her mom or her dad, or like how she's seen or whatever. And so we really need to like infiltrate that. Sorry, Heather. Yes. So we just got a comment here. Heather. Yes. Don't worry about being late. Watch the replay or hop in with us right now. We're talking about leading from self, your whole self. And here's what I want to talk about, because what we're talking about right now is about, it's almost like giving ourselves, we're like, wow, we're if you're in this evolution train, or like even self-development, or giving a shit about yourself, anybody on this call will get this. That you're aware on some level that you're always changing. Like you can never actually go back. First of all, I want to say that, because I think there's this awful like little gremlin inside that I don't want to go back. So I just need to comment on that, just because that's not possible, because you're continuously evolving and changing, going around these almost like a spiral staircase. And sometimes there does feel like repetition, but there's no way you could hold that same thing in this, the same content in the same way that you did before, because you're just fundamentally different on a lot of levels. And holding that for your family, for your friends, for the world, that maybe now is exactly the right time. Like there's so many topics being discussed right now that never would have been talked about before. Like look at the evolution, even the conversation around sex. Somebody was talking to me about this the other day. Like now, sex is like, everybody talks about sex, da 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 da. It's like death is the new taboo. It's just like now nobody wants to talk about death. This girlfriend of mine is like, or this friend and colleague is like stepping into the conversation around death. And it's like, now that's kind of got this taboo edge, whereas sex is like, like that's evolved and grown. So that's wonderful, because I think that's really helpful, because it helps us shake off all those little layers of like, I can't because Aunt Marge or so-and-so said this to me 10 years ago. And like, that's the block that is now her voice in mine. And we have to take ownership. That's one of those little shadowy pieces that we have to say, I've been blaming Aunt Marge for that, but really I did pick up what she was putting down, and I've been holding on to it for 10 years.
I want to say two things. One, I actually have an Aunt Margie, and I love her so much. And I just think it's so funny.
That's so great.
So darling. I love her. I just adore her. I think it makes her uncomfortable how much I adore her, because she's like,
that's so crazy. I did not know it, Marge. I didn't know it. If you're watching, I had no idea you existed.
I know. I'm going to have to send this to her now. So that's one thing. Margie, I just think you're fucking wonderful. So it's so great you put somewhere. Except somewhere, obviously. And two, I had another point to that. Evolving and growing, space in the family. Oh, this I think points back to it is easy. Part of what's really messed up and interesting about humanity, it's like maybe it was your Aunt Marge's voice in your head said a thing to you that you picked up and you sort of internalized, and now it's become your own out your mouth. But sometimes it's like maybe it's just a projection. Maybe it's something they didn't quite say, or they wasn't quite named, but you're sort of like, but I kind of know that you might think that. And then my saboteur brain gets a hold of that and is like, well, I'm really afraid. And then it like melds your fears.
Yeah, it's witnessing. So what you're talking about is like MC at like a family picnic, or even just any of our family. But it's like our peers, our culture. We're somewhere at a gathering and somebody says, oh, that's not okay. Or they start on a bit of a diatribe about like this or that. And you're either a highly influenced kid that's like open, especially empaths. I talk about empaths a lot, being open to everything. And that's the danger. That's probably the danger that empaths have, is that we take in everything. And without that loving interpreter to say, I know that's caught in your filter, but that was really their upbringing, their experience. And so you have a choice. But that's what you're saying too. That's what both of us are saying, is to allow all of it. Healthy examination is what wants to be said. A healthy examination.
Yeah. And I think Mary just popped in with a comment that I saw flash on the screen, and I was like, yes. She's like, it's when my fear looks for proof. Right? And that's totally it. It's your fear looks for proof. And if it doesn't find it exactly, it will create it, right? It'll blend reality just enough to make it feel like it could be there. And so one of my favorite exercises, and this actually is this is one of the hows between how I went from like, oh my God, I have all this knowledge and can want to help everyone and change their lives, but I'm super afraid of like talking about this really esoteric Eastern astrology system. Like, what? That's so confusing. Why would I ever like ruin my reputation, right? Ruin my reputation? No, it made me stronger. But that's kind of where this started, was like such fear of what I thought people would say and feel about this work for me. And how I got through it is really the simple act of, is this mine? Is this mine, and what's true now? And so the is this mine is like, is this voice in my head telling me that people won't take me seriously if I talk about frequency work as part of the fundamental practice to building a really strong, sustainable, lucrative business, right? Like, I'm not just talking about frequency work. I'm saying this is step one to making a lot of money and building a really huge business for yourself. Will people take, and then it was like, no, that's not mine. That's actually not mine. That's something I've picked up along the way. That's maybe just sort of the culture I live in. That might be ancestral stuff, like whatever. Like, this isn't really mine.
Maybe the critical voice, not the thing that you just spewed out, which was like totally the truth about you.
Yeah, but no, that critical voice in my head, is this mine? Like, no. And then what's true now? What's true now is every time I talk to people about this, they freaking love it. I'm going to trust that. And, and of course there's this thing of like, when you get your first hater, like, you've made it, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But there's something to be said for like paying attention to the fact that like, oh, when I talk about this, there is resonance and people like that, and I'm going to keep trusting that, and I'm going to keep going. So for whatever the thing is that everybody watching is working on, whether it's work or personal life or romantic, like that, there's a simple practice of like, is this voice in my head mine? Is this idea mine? Is this concept mine? Yes or no, or maybe gray area, and then spend some more time fleshing it out.
Yeah.
And then like, what's true now? Because it's just so easy to live in that projected fear reality, honestly.
So you're reminding me, so Ellen Ellen came into my life through a woman named Becca Tracy, who was a coach that I did my very first coach training session with. And I looked into Becca sort of helping new coaches establish a business. And I was like, anybody that knows my story, it's like, I was so like, I didn't even know this was a thing. So I was like, oh my God, I have my people. I'm like, this is where we talk all the talk. I love it. I love it. It's like home for me. I got very, very excited. And Becca and Ellen were offering this course called like Coach Jumpstart program, which Ellen still, you still do it, right?
Yep. Coaching Business Jumpstart.
Yes. And so, sorry, my phone is bothering me. I'm like shoving it in the chair. Go away. And so I took this course, and I'm telling this story because even when something is, you're laughing because of, okay, I'll tell you why. So, because even when something is yours, it can sometimes come so quickly and fast and strong that it is okay if you can't hold it. Okay. So I want to like talk about this because there's some people that might be watching this and be like, this urge of something wants to come through. I don't have quite words for it. One thing before you talk about that, which you talked about, it's a spiral staircase of sort of work and change and evolution. Yeah. And I actually think that's part of what keeps people a little bit afraid and not letting the things come through, right? Because you're like worried. Like, what's this journey going to look like? What are the steps? I don't know. It might be too much for me. Can I really do it? I'll just try as hard as I freaking can to stay exactly the same right now, and not because there's the fear of what comes next. And so I want to offer, what does it mean? Yeah. How's it, whatever. So I just want to offer that both, it's totally normal to be aware of, fear and what comes next and change. And the human existence is to expand and grow and change. That is what we are designed to do. And so Keri-Anne's story, I find, I'm like interviewing you right now. I find deeply inspirational because it speaks to both how things can happen quickly and big in a very fundamental way, but then how sometimes you also get to grow into things, like how things get to evolve and change and stay the same moment. Like
I feel like what you went through was sort of why a lot of people might be like, that's too much for me. Like, I can't, that's like a lot, but it's also like, everyone's got a similar story if you really are listening and paying attention, which is what you are doing and what you had just started really doing when this came through. So that's why I want to set that up for everyone else a little bit more too.
Thank you. Because I had just woken up in a big way. I was like, wow, I finally found a home. And then I got permission in this course to be like, all right. You know, like, what do you want to, what's really important? What is the thing that you know you're really good at, that, you know, all these silos of like what you're good at, what you're passionate, what you really love doing, what you notice people thank you for. And it was just bringing it all under this one roof. And in the end, I presented this epic, like, I'm here to help people move through the hardest shit they've ever, like, it was this fountain of intense, huge, deep, dark, actually pretty dark stuff. But I held it with such reverence and passion. And I know I'm meant to do this. I know I'm really good at holding really difficult stuff, and I'm helping people navigate through it. And I just came out so passionate. And it was like, I was literally the first round of this course. Like, so it was like, and Ellen are like, let's do this course. And then I show up and I'm like, bonk, like, just like this giant thing. And I remember there being severe crickets not in a bad way, but it was like, it was real. And I was like, really went out the gate with all of it. And I was like, I know that I'm supposed to do this. And I had the confidence in it, but also once I put it out there and had the enormity of what I sensed and articulated it, it was like when I saw it, and I really felt like, how do I? And then all the bats fly out of the cave. It's like, how can I do that? You're not established. You don't know what the fuck you're doing. Oh my God. You know, who are you? You should be all these things. You pick it up. Yeah. And so what I did was, I still have all that information. I still have it. It would be so funny to reread it to see how in alignment it is with what I'm doing now. But I consciously was like, so I'm going to do this instead. Like, it was,
you're like,
I just, for me to hold that, I think I know I couldn't have done it. It was true. It was capital T true. All of it. Yes, yes, yes. It was almost as if, you know, if there were people watching me from above, they were like, oh my God, she's finally tuning in. Send her all this stuff, boys. It was like, and I got it all. Yeah. And I got it all, and it was overwhelming, but it was like, felt really, really good and really, really strong. And I'm still human, like, which is like, blah, 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 blah. So what I did is I pulled back and said, what's a chunk of this that I could, you know, which may sound like kind of selling up, but it wasn't. It was allowing me to digest and ease myself into my destiny.
Actually. That's how I felt about it, was that you were stepping your way into it. Cause it's kind of like, I mean, pick any superhero movie. I just saw King Arthur, which I really liked. I really liked that movie. I mean, Charlie, what's his face, is a very handsome man. The movie is fun and it's entertaining. And when he grabs his sword, Charlie, I don't know, Charlie H. When he grabs the sword for the first time, it like basically short circuits him and he passes out. And I think that's kind of what happened to you, right? It was like there was so much energy, there was so much truth, there was so much alignment. And in that moment, it was too much in that way. But you didn't walk away from it. You weren't like, no, just kidding. You were like, okay, how do I make this more manageable for the space I have now? And then you've been working on growing yourself and expanding yourself to create more and more space and bandwidth to now be able to hold a much broader, and not broader, but bigger mission and impact and vision with your work. And that's, I think, where people, I mean, to me, I wish more people would take that road. There's two pieces of this. One, I wish more people would listen to themselves. And I do think when I talk like the how of how I became all this, shoot, you can only see my face, but I'm doing like body rolls over here. To listen to myself, like creating daily practices to listen to myself and both slow down to ask myself questions and then be present and pause enough to listen to the answers. Because I think that's part of it too. People are good at talking to themselves. They're not that great at listening. And then they're not that great at acting on it. Because again, fear. So that's one of the tools that I've really developed for myself that's helped me feel a lot more comfortable and embodied with all of these different parts of myself. But the other thing is, it's okay to have a really big idea and mission and vision, and then dial it back to exactly what you can do right now, and then keep stepping stone and walking towards it and walking forward. I mean, I think people have this idea that it either needs to be all big and all perfect, like now, or it's like garbage and nothing. And that's so not true. And again, this is why I'm so deeply committed to helping support you and keep amplifying the bless the mess piece. Because I think that is like a big piece of the conversation from our lives, but also from building businesses, right? That's really missing. There's this idea of like, and then I had this idea and then it was perfect and it was amazing and like buy my stuff. Or like, oh, I don't have that idea and it's not perfect and no one's buying my stuff and like, I'm a failure. And it's like, no, you can have these light bulb moments. You can have these incredibly huge bolts of lightning and then just make it as much as you can hold in this moment and keep moving forward. And that is better than the alternative, which is like shutting it down and walking away because it's too big right now.
There's a lot of forgiveness in this process that I'm picking up on when you're talking. And I think that's kind of cool to talk about, which is, we got a comment here. I want to talk about this too. Here, I'm going to say this first, then I'm going to add, and then I'm going to pull up your question, Jess, which is the forgiveness, allowing. Man, if more of us walked around with forgiveness and allowing, and what I mean by that is, I remember when I first came out of the gate, I was like, I dialed it down to like life coach and I made it palatable for people to step in the door. And then I was like, ha, I'm just kidding. But kind of, actually. Anybody that actually still works with me, that is what I'm learning is I do up until now have a little bit of a bait and switch, that I've now am stepping into more intuitive work and more like, talking about making that a real thing. Because there's a misalignment there. So people were like, oh, she's a coach. And then they'd kind of be like, what's going on here? Something different is here. There's like, I haven't had this quite. And so that was not aligned. That's not okay. So now I'm stepping out. I've got like, this new, even a title, which is like more emotional empowerment and intuitive integration coach, a little bit more like, which actually talks a little bit more about what I actually do, bringing all the parts in and like creating more of a sense of wholeness. But what I allowed myself to do was forgive myself for outgrowing phases. So it was like I was allowed to do that first little, okay, I can step out and I can talk about this stuff. And then I got really like into like bold, brash talk. And it was like, fuck this and F that or shit. I don't know. There was still a bit of an edge there, which I still have, obviously. That's very natural for me. But what I noticed was I started getting really kind of grossed out by this really cool, like this fatty, trash talking, or everything was like fuckity this or shit-tastic that, or and I was like, oh, that's gross. Oh, I gotta stop doing that. And then I took it all away and I was like, that's okay. So, oh my God, I just outgrew that so fast. I swear to God, it felt like weeks. And I was like, oh, but it was just like being so aware of how things feel. If, tuning into your own frequency. How does it feel? And what do I need to adjust to feel like, oh, and that's not to pull back and be just safe and afraid. It's like where it feels more like, yeah, no, that's what's bugging me, and like me undo it and whatever. And that does sometimes require help from, people like yourself or myself. But I just needed to say that. I don't know if you want to say anything about it.
Well, what I want to add is that's like exactly why I'm so passionate about my frequency work. Is because the position I hold and the why behind it is when people understand themselves better, and they understand like these sort of energetic cycles, because frequency also, there's like a yearly frequency wind in your sails, and there's a monthly frequency wind in your sails to your life. And when people understand both themselves, their makeup, and the wind in their sails on a monthly and yearly basis, you can have that allowing. And you can have that self-tenderness, and there's so much more room there because you're no longer like, why, or this, or I can't figure this out, so you shouldn't be able to either, or I figured this out and you should be able to, right? There's just so much tension and caughtness that comes from this, the sense of sort of struggle and frustration within ourselves for not matching up to whatever society tells us we should be, or our families or whatever. Like we have all this, like there's all these layers to this. And it gives you a really simple vocabulary and understanding to be like, oh, God, this is why I grow out of shit hella fast. Or this is why I don't, or this is why I need a really long time to figure out what it is I actually think and believe. And then to write it down, like just helping you understand your own cycles and rhythms and evolutions. And I think when that's there, then that permission to evolve and grow is built in, right? Because we're not like trying to hold it all together or judge ourselves or think that everything should stop, which is, I think, a big piece of this. And I'm also reflecting, like, in my business life, I totally get that things evolve and grow. And in my personal life, I really struggle with that. And I'm reflecting on my own frequencies. I'm like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense.
And I think what you're also speaking to is judging an idea or judging an urges, ideas, instincts. We're judging them before they even get a chance to breathe. So it answered a little bit. I don't know, Janessa, if you felt like Ellen touched on this, but Janessa's question is in relation to the big ideas. How do you move through the who am I to even hold this big idea mindset? Yeah. And I think you did answer it. I don't know what you want to add to it, but I mean, it's what I heard you say also was let it out. Like, really explore the shit out of it. Like I almost picture like a big piece of paper and like the sense of the idea. So some people even listening to this are like, oh, but I don't have a fully formed idea. And it's like, I don't care what it is. If it's half maimed, just like let the leg out of it, like, or whatever, just like, it kind of sounds like this. It kind of feels like that. And just mind map it. And what do you know about that? A good question right now that wants to be known is like, what's important about this? What is this showing me? What is this asking of me? You can almost even have a dialogue with the idea. What would you say?
Yeah. Let it out or let it go. Heather just posted that. I like that. I go back to talking to Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic, which is like ideas are looking for willing partners. So if an idea or concept is nudging you, it is basically saying, hey, I'm here. Do you want me? How do you feel? Could you do this? Are you my person? Right? Are you my idea? And then that's where the Keri-Anne methodology, like mind map it, get it out, check it out or let it go. It's a great way to look at that. But honestly, my like hot take on that is like, if not you, then who? Like seriously, who? Like, if not you, then who? We need you to hold these big ideas. We need you to have these big ideas. We need you to explore these big ideas. And then we need you to move them forward in whatever way makes the most sense to you. Because if you don't do it, like nobody else will in the way that you will. And I super believe that these ideas and urges and concepts come to us as a result of our entire life's like training for this moment. Right. And, I got distracted by the thing I'm saying, but it's like come to us because of our entire life's training for this moment. And we're the right idea in the right way at the right time. And so I also really need to lean into that idea of like, I don't have to make the whole process, right? I don't have to sit here and itemize exactly why me. It just is right now. And I'm going to take it. If I'm saying yes to the idea, I'm going to like frequency, which is a huge thing that I've been working on for years now, because I said yes. I was like, okay, I'm going to really step into stewarding this because I think it can really help people and I think it can be good for my business. Like there's a lot of other reasons, but ultimately like this makes tons of sense and I'm a willing partner. Let's go, let's do this. And if I really started to map it out, I could make a case why this is my whole life leading up to this idea, and this concept in this way. I'm not going to, we don't have that much time on your show, but I could.
Yeah, so thank you. But
who?
That's so great. This is so good. Okay, so two things. Do what Ellen is suggesting. So the one thing that showed me that okay, so here's what I love what you said. I don't know if you knew you said this, but that we're the perfect idea. Like we are an idea. Like it's almost like we're an idea also, that meets up with this other idea. And it's like, and it's reminding me of a quote from Eckhart Tolle, which is like, how do you know? It's like the universe is always conspiring to make sure that you're, evolving and growing through the experiences you have. And it's like, well, how do you know? It's because you're the one having the experience. So I wasn't signed into that book, A New Earth, until that quote. And I was like, wow, oh my God, I'm in. I mean, that was like, I'm in. I don't care what this man says after this point, but I am all in after that. Sorry, just some feedback here. Just saying, I love the idea of stewardship. And how would you define stewardship? Because I sort of see that walking along with, in my hands, just kind of want to do that.
Totally. Yeah. I was actually introduced to this idea of stewardship. I used to work at an outdoor education company. Hi, Lisa. You can listen to the replay too. It's good to see your name. I was introduced to the idea of stewardship. I worked for an outdoor environmental company, or nonprofit that helps create stewards of the environment. Mm-hmm. So when I think of stewards, I think of someone who partners with and guides and protects an idea, a person, a region, a concept. You know, we have stewards of the environment who are dedicated to protecting and supporting it. There are stewards of people, right? Like back in the day, like ancient Europe, you would have a steward if you were under 18 or whatever before you became king. Like this. So to me, it's like both guardian and protector, but also partner. It's something that really does, it walks hand in hand, but it also kind of paves the way too.
You know, and so yes, thank you, because I think that's really helpful. Two things. So I posted this link in the comments. Now, throughout this conversation, I don't know if you read this book, but What Do You Do With an Idea is the best children's book /adult / everyone should read this book about this little boy with an idea, and the idea is in the shape of an egg, and it is amazing. About how he tries to get away from it, but it's always there, and he almost gets mad at it because he shares it and nobody likes it. And it's amazing, and how he finally partners with it and stewards it. So it's a great demonstration about what you're saying. And what we were saying before about every moment up until now. Oh my God, yes. So we're going to end on this because I really think this is such a powerful exercise that I do invite people to do when I say, you know, even if you bullet pointed your life story, 0 to 5 years of age, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, if we did that and said, what were the significant events? Who were the significant influences? What pivots did I make? What was I learning in that time? And you all of a sudden can see, oh my God, of course I'm supposed to have this idea now.
Yeah.
And so when I did that, it was just
not running from yourself.
That's right. So now we're doing this amazing full loop that we did not script. We could not have scripted this. It's like that all aspects of self, not just your characteristics, not just your beliefs or ideas, not even the limiting ideas. Like those are all part of it, but what you were born into. I mean, it's perfect. This is where this shit gets cosmic, because of course I was landed here with the parents I had that stewarded me through the things that I went through, and so on and so forth, who I was as a teenager, who I was as a young woman, and what I got myself led into, and what I survived, and what I experienced, and the lessons I took out of it. Each one is like this perfect layer of a cake that is totally ready to be like presented, like right here and now. And I hope you are all like going on that train with me right now. Oh, I'm so glad, Heather. I got very excited there. So how do you want to close this out, Ellen?
I would say yes to all of this. So to me, it's almost circling back to Janessa's question, like, who am I to hold this big idea? If you stop asking that question and start asking more about what is the idea? How does it want to be released? How do I want to interact with it? I bet you, again, stop running from yourself. Own it. Own the fact that you have big ideas and just go forward from that place. Like owning it, loving yourself for who you are. You are a woman that has big ass ideas that have maybe never been heard of before. Maybe you're going to talk about an esoteric, like astrological system and try to make it super accessible for corporate America. Like, I don't know, like your big idea will be yours, but like, I am no stranger to like, oh, I am just like a young woman with this big idea. Like what? And just say yes to it. And I think when you say yes to your big ideas, you start to say yes to your full life, yes to your whole life, yes to your whole self. And to me, that is where integration comes from. That's where embodiment comes from. Like to go back to kind of where we started this conversation, like that's the map, is saying yes to all of these different parts of yourself. And you are so up for it and capable of it because of your whole life leading up to this whole point, right? Like this is what you've been training for in some ways. This is you pulling dividends of all the hard work that you've been through, all the lessons that you've learned that have led to this little idea or big ass idea in your brain right now. And what Keri-Anne said about the cake, like, and there's still more layers being added. You are this big, yummy, juicy layer cake today. And in 5 years, there's more layers. In 2 years, there's more layers. There's always more layers. And we're always expanding and we're always growing. And the best way we can do that in this fully embodied, connected to self way is to say yes and to keep moving. That's really
it's the yes and not yes but, because that just puts a bunch of like stop start energy into it, which I think is important. When we talk about all the layers, a lot of people don't want to look at some of those layers. And what I think we're trying to say here is that they all have a meaning. The very thing that you think is going to take you down is actually going to propel you further into release of more ideas that are actually going to help shed all of that heaviness or shed all of the all of the baggage that you just don't need anymore. I think there's something in that too. It's like, don't be afraid of some of those darker layers. To me, that would mean where all the good stuff is. It's like,
yeah. And we're both Mountain Earth frequencies, so we're really similar in that way. We're all about going deep and finding the treasures. That's exactly what we're about. But I would also say, like, you can't control it. And you shouldn't try to control it, and don't try to manage it. You know, and I see, especially with women, trying to control, manage, and project and predict the future in relation to their big ideas or their dreams or their whatevers. And that is not your job, right? Like, life can only be lived in the present. So, like, say yes in the present and trust yourself that you will keep knowing the right thing to do as your life unfolds. But, like, let go. Yeah.
I love of course.
Of course. Like, stop trying to control or manage or take emotional responsibility for the future, because it's not here yet. And we have no idea which way the ball is going to bounce in any moment.
Oh my God, this is so great. I'm not even kidding. So what a lovely way to end this. Because I talked earlier about how crows influenced a walk that I was on, and it's all about self-reflection. And there was a quote in here. Actually, it was all about law, sacred law, and how things roll out. And that's kind of how I feel like you just, Lenny, you were like, listen, that's not your job. Your job is to pay attention and allow, and like be a full passenger on this ride, and pay attention and speak up and engage. And this whole past, present, and future. The invitation of the medicine around the crow, which was perfect, which is like, it's the crow holds the past, the present, and the future. And it says, honor your past as your teacher. Honor the present as your creation. This is where you can create from. And it's very and honor the future as your inspiration.
There you go.
And that's that. Go create. Thank you so much, Ellen, for being here. You got some fan mail here. Lisa's going to loop back. Thank you for being here, Lisa. And Heather, thank you so much. So good to meet you. And Ashley, lots of love. Keep the questions coming. If we've opened up anything for you, or keep it happening in the comments. Ellen will.
I'm happy to stay engaged. I love having all these conversations. I feel like we had 17 conversations in an hour. So if something sparks for you later, just tag me in the comments. I would love to continue talking about all of these different pieces. It is so my life's work these days.
And if you're curious about Ellen's frequency work, check it out. I think it's a really good thing for anybody, no matter what you're doing or where you're at, to just get grounded in some of these. It's a deep acknowledgement, which I think is always the birthplace of just like anchoring and like reconnecting, to really acknowledge all parts, all aspects. So there's that. And that's in the comments. And thank you so much, Ellen. Oh my gosh, your name's been missing. How long has that been missing for? Thank you so much. So much love to you, Ellen. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Ernie, Mary, love you.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.